Hello and welcome to the Westcity Church podcast. If you'd like to get to know us more, find us at westcitychurch.com.au. We really hope that you're encouraged by today's message.
As you say, I've worked with John for a number of years. I've worked with lots of staff for many years. John is the first one who has the Mission Impossible title next to him. Kind of tried to change John Bergman, that's not going to happen. Do I look older as a result? Yes. Am I wiser? No. But anyway, had a lot more fun at any rate, so that's really good. Hey, really good to be here with you today. And I'd like to, I'm taking part in your series just on Disruptive Stories, and I want to read just a few verses from what I think, when you kind of dig into it, is one of the most disruptive stories in the Old Testament. It's from Exodus chapter 1. And I'll read just from verse 15, but basically the verses before are explaining that the Israelites, or the Hebrews, had been in Egypt under Joseph, and they'd really helped to have a leadership role for the Egyptians. But then a Pharaoh came who forgot everything about Joseph and turned the Hebrews into slaves. And as they're slaves, they somehow are still thriving in slavery, and the Egyptians get quite worried about that, and this is what happens. So I'm reading from verse 15. The king of Egypt said to the Hebrew midwives, whose names were Shiphrah and Puah, "When you help the Hebrew woman in childbirth and observe them on the delivery stool, if it is a boy, kill him, but if it is a girl, let her live." The midwives, however, feared God and did not do what the king of Egypt had told them to do. They let the boys live. Then the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and asked them, "Why have you done this? Why have you let the boys live?" The midwives answered Pharaoh, "Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They are vigorous and give birth before the midwives arrive." So God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and became even more numerous. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people: "Every Hebrew boy that is born must be thrown into the Nile, but let every girl live." So, fascinating little story. What do we get from it? Let me just ask though first, this area of making decisions. Have you ever found yourself where you've got to make a decision and really the options are bad and worse? Like, it doesn't matter what decision you make is not the right one. Perhaps some of you are in business. Have you ever had a time in business where it's like actually going quite badly, and you're sitting there and you're kind of looking over the books, and it's just obvious. You've got to lay some staff off. But when you think about who you can lay off, you realize, hey, listen, if I lay them off, the economy is terrible at the moment. There are no other jobs out there. They're not going to get employed anywhere else. But if I don't lay them off, the whole thing will go under. So what do? Do I select a couple and say, well, tough to you, off to the wolves? Or do I just bat it out and just hope that we don't go under, but we probably will? What decision do you make? And if you've ever been in that position, and if you're in business, it's quite possible that you might have had that awful experience where you've had to let some people go and they never talk to you again and they face a very difficult future. It's an awkward, difficult decision. Or what about, there you are, you're in this job, and it's an absolute dead-end job. You don't enjoy it at all. And one day, you get this offer of this amazing, amazing job. It's in the same field as you're in. There are not very many openings in it, but someone's actually come to you. It's a huge salary increase. It's going to be wonderful. Only trouble is this: it's over east, and it involves relocating there. And here's the thing. You are kind of looking after your elderly parents. They live just a few houses along from you, and they really dread having to go into care. And the only reason that they're able to stay in their home is because you're there and you are helping them. And if you take that job over east, well, you know what's going to have to happen. They're not going to be able to come with you. They're far too frail for that. They're going to have to go into care, aren't they? And so you sit there and you know, well, if I take the job, I'll feel guilty forever because of what I've done to them. And if I don't, I'm going to resent them forever. So what do you do? What do you do? It's like one of those impossible decisions. Tim Costello, who was the former CEO of World Vision, tells a true haunting story. He went to the Philippines once. World Vision was doing some work there. And he sat with a mother, and the mother was speaking to him, and the mother told him that one of her youngest child had been terribly ill. And she had discovered that there was some medicine that would probably cure her child. but it was very expensive. And the mother said that when I looked at how much it cost, I realized if I buy the medicine, I won't have money to feed my other children. So I didn't know what I should do. And she said I didn't buy the medicine and my youngest child died, but my other children are alive. But I still wonder whether I made the right decision. I mean, what do you do when you're faced with impossible decisions? In this particular account, we're told a story, and it's a story that's 3,500 years old. So this thing of someone that's having really difficult situations that you find in life, there's nothing new about it. 3,500 years ago, there are two women, they're midwives. They committed to bringing babies into the world, and they've been helping Hebrew women for as long as their career has spanned. And they get called in one day by the Pharaoh. I mean, that's quite something if you're just a midwife, and the Pharaoh comes to you and says, hey, listen, new plan. You are the Hebrew midwives, Shipra and Pua. In future, whenever someone gives birth, if it's a girl, that's okay, you can let it pass. Women are no threat to us. But if it's a male baby, a male Hebrew baby, you must kill it on birth right away. And imagine yourself, if you were, say, Shipra, just imagine that you're Shipra, what would you do in that situation? I mean, she would be saying, I've committed all my life to helping my people. She's a Hebrew woman as well. And I've committed myself, and I'm going to help these babies to live. But there's this Pharaoh, and if I tell him, Pharaoh, I'm not going to do it, what's going to happen to me? I'm going to be killed, thank you very much. So what's the point of, what do you do in a situation like that? What would you do? Because this was a true story, and this actually happened. And someone had to make this decision. And these two women were suddenly faced with, are we going to kill these male babies when they're born? Or what's going to happen to us? And so they decided, very wisely, that they would do nothing. That was their plan. If you'd gone to them after they met with Pharaoh and said, so what are you going to do about it? They would say, well, actually, nothing. Maybe he will have just a seniors moment and forget about it and the conversation will be gone. Who knows? Perhaps. But if they had hoped like that, they were actually just whistling in the wind because Pharaoh didn't forget. And they did nothing, and the day comes that Pharaoh comes and says to them, so why haven't you killed these male Hebrew babies? They see them bouncing up everywhere. What's going on? I gave you the instructions. Why didn't you do it? And whether they had prepared their answer in advance or whether it just came to them in a flash, we don't know. But they give this quite fascinating answer. And what's the answer? Pharaoh, we have the cushiest job in the world. People always think that midwives work so hard. We never have any work to do. You know why? Because Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. You Egyptians, your women are so fair and beautiful and refined and so delicate and so lovely. Hebrew women, they're just old cows. When they have their babies, the baby just pops out like that. We're never required to help at all, We never do anything. We never see the babies. We just have this easy job. And you know what? What does the story tell us? Pharaoh says, wow. That's interesting. Okay, fair enough. And they're off the hook. And you say, well, gosh. I think I wouldn't have believed that story if it wasn't that I grew up in apartheid South Africa. When you grow up in a deeply prejudiced society, if you say, why did Pharaoh believe what was so obviously a ridiculous lie? In what universe is it going to be true that every Hebrew woman just has a baby in 3 seconds and it's out and it's fine and everything's okay? Pharaoh might have been a male, but he couldn't have been that stupid. Except he was. He was. He seriously was that stupid because he was a prejudiced man. And prejudice does that to people. If you never meet with people and you get told, those people, they're not like everyone else. They're really quite different. You never trust them. They seriously odd and weird. And if you never associate with them and somehow you're a little bit afraid of them, well, that's what prejudice does. You believe everything and you make some ridiculous decisions. It was even Pharaoh's ridiculous decision and killed the male babies, but not the female babies. Wow, well, Pharaoh would have said, well, females are never a threat to us. I'm a man, tough and powerful. Ha ha. These are two women who get the better of him, aren't they? The passage is actually reminding you of that. And who, when he says that drown the babies? Who's it that gets the better of him? It's Moses' mother. And who gets the better of him after that? It's his daughter who brings Moses into the palace. I mean, all this because women can't ever do anything. Please, they control the entire narrative at this stage. But Pharaoh's too prejudiced to see that. We'll never imagine that for even a moment. So this story is actually quite a happy story, isn't it? It ends well because, Pharaoh says, kill the babies, they do nothing. Then they tell this odd little porky about, kind of Hebrew woman just give their babies, and Pharaoh says, oh, okay. And you say, so happy ending, all good. Oh, no, sorry, not all good. Just wear your ethics hat. So I do some teaching at what's now the Vos campus of Morling College, and if you do ethics, you've got to dig into things quite carefully. You've got to think through the ethical implications of things. So from an ethical perspective, what do you make of this? These women told a lie. Okay, so let's just take a quick little survey, and this is the test of the morality of Westcity. Or the immorality of Westcity. So, how many of you think it's okay to lie? Just raise your hand. And are the rest of you lying when you don't raise your hand? They were lying, weren't they? There's no way that every Hebrew woman just gives her a baby in a matter of seconds and you can't get there in time. It's a lie. Does lying matter? Well, someone has commented that lying is not so much part of our social fabric, that society is lubricated by our lying. And all social etiquette, you in fact, if you don't lie, you're a really rude person, and you're not going to fit in. And think about it, it's probably true. Haven't you had a friend come to you and they have this outfit that they bought and they've spent far too much money for it, and they say, do you like it? And you think you were thinking, what? And seriously, in that? The back of a bus is more attractive than that. Thank you very much. And you think that, and what do you say? It's gorgeous. You look lovely. It's so nice. And you lubricate the relationship, and it goes really nicely. And yeah, you maybe try to change the topic, but that's what you say, lying. So, except, isn't that why we've got this society now where you actually never really know what people mean? Because we lie so routinely and it's so interwoven in the fabric of everything that we do that we actually don't know where we stand. And when people say yes to us, we wonder whether they really mean no. And when people say they like something, we kind of listen to how enthusiastically they say it and try to pick up other cues because we know that we can't just trust their words alone. Immanuel Kant, the ethicist, once said that if you ever adopt any principle like you must always tell the truth, you've got to imagine or it's a world where it's okay to lie, you've got to imagine that through to the end. So if you say it's okay to lie, well, imagine a world where people just lie routinely. Do you want to live in that kind of a world? So I don't know. It's a difficult question. We won't dig into it too far, but let me just raise as a little alert. Before you just say everything's okay with this passage, it is about lying, but there's something much more disturbing than that in the passage, and I wonder if you noticed it. So when the midwives speak to Pharaoh, what is it that they say? Then the king of Egypt summoned the midwives and asked them, why have you done this? Why have you let the boys live? The midwives answered Pharaoh, Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. They are vigorous and give birth before the midwives arrive. Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. Hebrew women are not like Egyptian women. You're saying that to the king. You're saying that they are other. You're saying that there's a whole group of people whose lives are completely abnormal and that they're not the same as other people, and therefore you can do anything you like to them. Welcome the Holocaust. Welcome Hitler coming in thousands of years later. Hebrew people are not like other people. The Jews are not like other races. They are quite different. Do whatever you like to them. They're not really fully people. Wow, that's a dangerous lie. Whenever you go to people and you say they're really not like other people, and people believe them, and they're telling this lie to power. They're telling this lie to power. A powerful person has the ability to decide all kinds of things. Sorry, don't too quickly say a happy ending, everything's absolutely fine. And think of the third dimension. So it's a lie, they're other people, And thirdly, it's not even successful. I mean, it's not actually even successful because we're told this, verse 22. So Pharaoh gave this order to all the people. Every Hebrew boy that is born you must throw into the Nile, but let every girl live. So Pharaoh just says, okay, so you midwives don't do it. Never mind, just round them up and drop them in the river and drown them anyway. And that's what's happened. So was it successful? I mean, it gave them just a little window of time, but in the end, they were all killed anyway. Wow. It's not 3,500 years ago, this is tough life. And so you say, so here are these midwives, Shiphrah and Puah, and they were lying, othering, unsuccessful midwives. So is this a happy story? Did they do the right thing? Well, let's just imagine. So I said, imagine that you're Shiphrah, and you're there, and you're trying to decide what you should do. And so you say, well, okay, why don't we refer this to the Hebrew Ethics Committee? Because maybe you could do that. Maybe you could say, well, let me go to my church, let me go to my community, let me go to the Westcity Council or whatever, and say, I'm in this difficult position, please give me the moral guidance. What am I supposed to do here? And I have actually served on some committees like that over the years, and I can roughly imagine what they would say. They would come back, and I strongly suspect that they would say this. Shiphrah and Puah, it's a very difficult position. Please, our condolences. So sad that you're in this difficult position. But you do need to recognize, out of the question that you can kill the babies. That's out of the question. Murder, never allowed. Okay, so that's not an option. But hey, you're not allowed to lie either, so don't lie. So what we say to you is, don't kill, don't lie. And if Pharaoh says, why have you not obeyed? Just say to Pharaoh, because you exceeded your power, it is illegitimate for you to command us to do that, and you shouldn't do that. You then hold on to the moral high ground, even as Pharaoh chops your head off. But you would have done the right thing, and that's the important thing. Now, and they would have. And does the church sometimes think like that? Well, go to Tertullian. Tertullian is a second century ethicist and apologist in the life of the early church. And Tertullian, spoke to early Christians about the fact that they were serving in the Roman military and said to them, you're not allowed to serve in the military. This is not appropriate for Christians. You're not to do that. And they came back and they said, how will we live? I mean, there's not work elsewhere. If you don't work in the military, it's the only place that's employing at the moment. How will we work? And Tertullian replied, the tough answer is this: do you need to live? The tough answer is this: do you need to live? Boom. Okay, so that's your ethics committee for you. It's pretty harsh and it's pretty difficult. Do you think the ethics committee got it right? The passage gives us two fascinating clues. And they're clues that you pick up if you know something of the ancient world. So in the ancient world, there were two ways in particular. If you said to someone, if you were like the wise person in the village, and people came to you and they said, so wise person, how will we know that God has blessed us? That wise person would say to you, you know that you have been greatly blessed by God if in time your name is remembered and God gives you children of your own. There are two ways in which we know the blessing of the divine in our life: that our names are remembered and we have children of our own. Okay, interesting. And that was a widely spread answer. So what are the names of these midwives? Do you remember them? Shiphrah and Puah. So 3,500 years later, we remember their names. What was Pharaoh's name? Go through the passage. He's Pharaoh who? Don't know. He's unmentioned. He's unmentionable. He's forgotten. He's part of the trash of history, just disappeared. But their names are Shiphrah and Puah. And it's quite something to have your name remembered 3,500 years later. So do you think God is saying to them, what you did was okay? I think God is saying, thumbs up. You got it right ethically. And what else are we told? Well, it says it very, very explicitly. So God was kind to the midwives, and the people increased and became even more numerous. And because the midwives feared God, he gave them families of their own. So did they have children? Yes, they did. Yes, they did. So we know the passage is saying to us that even though these midwives were liars and otherers and failures, because the murder continued, God says your names will be remembered forever and you can have children of your own. And what does that say to us today? I think it says to us today, you know what? Life is sometimes seriously messy. And sometimes ethics committees don't always get things right. And sometimes the way ahead is impossibly hard to know. But you know what? There is a picture of God that comes through here that says God understands that very, very deeply and very profoundly. And God knows. And if you are in a position where you find yourself desperately trying to decide between bad and worse, God is not watching you and saying, better get that right or you're doomed forever. God is actually saying, I know. And yeah, I know all about othering, and I know its dangers, and I know how disastrous that is, and I know that lying is not good, and I know that it's not even going to be successful, but I know that you're in an impossible situation. And I'm not jumping up and down. And you know what? I really honor you, that you've been able to work out in this situation what matters most, because you know what? You're right. Saving life is more important than telling the truth, and all ethical obligations are not of equal importance. And you're very good in that you got that absolutely right. And you're really right because you have done what love commands. You have done what love commands of you. And you know what? That's what all of us need to do as well. It's what Paul says in 1 Corinthians 13:13. There are three things that remain forever: faith, hope, and love. And the greatest of them is love. And so when you go out into life with impossible situations, just do what love requires you to do. Just do what love requires you to do. That's the way of Jesus. And to be a Jesus follower is to look at Jesus and say, oh my goodness, in impossible situations where often the choice was bad or worse, somehow he found a way to do what love requires. And my prayer for all of us is that in our own way, we would be as courageous as Shiphrah and Puah, and that we would find a way forward, a way that does what love requires of us. Thank you.
How good was that message? Thank you so much for joining us. Each week at West City, we say a benediction together. We do this because we believe that the purpose of the church is to be a caring community for the world, and that as we go and serve others, we enter into Christ's work of welcome, restoration and healing, both for us and others. We believe that in doing so, we get to see and encounter Christ. So let's say the benediction together. We come together as the church to be reminded of the go of Christ. So we will go out and feed the hungry, go out and clothe the naked, go out and fight for justice, go out and end oppression, go out and proclaim anew the old story, go out and associate with those who don't look like us, think like us, act like us, and don't even like us. And we'll do it all in the name of the one who sent us. His name is Jesus.